Hello, everybody. It is me, Demetra K, and I hope you're having a great day. As you can see, I am here with Donovan, the recovering Democrat Sadiq, also known as the Black Yul Brenner. So today we are going to be talking about Kamala Harris uses MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. As you guys know, today is the holiday that is being celebrated for his birthday, but his birthday is actually January 15th, but they celebrate it federally in some regards, I guess, the third Monday of the month of January, so which happens to be today. But she made this speech a couple of days ago, but I saw it and I wanted to kind of show it to y'all in part, and we can have a discussion about it. Made me raise an eyebrow a few times throughout the speech, but I should also say that the purpose of the Demetra K Show is to promote Black love, knowledge, and understanding of all things that go on in the Black community to make us an even better people, with the emphasis on even, because we're great people, but we can always strive to do better. Like I said, Big Giant, thank you, hello, and welcome to YouTube and Facebook. You are the other side of the conversation. Also, thank you so much to my wonderful moderators for all that you do in holding down the comment section. It is much appreciated. So, Donovan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Beautiful weather here in Southern California. It's pretty hot today. Average, I think it was 76 degrees here today. Beautiful. Not a cloud in the sky. Really enjoyed it. Did some yard work. But hey, for time, let's get into it. If you guys want to continue to have these great conversations, we have a scrolling banner at the bottom. We have a scrolling banner at the bottom, and you could donate to the channel. Like I said, Demetra, sometimes she gets a little thirsty, you know, a cup of coffee here and there, a little Gatorade when she goes to the gym. You guys can donate via Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, cash, money order, however you guys want to do it. Also, things are heating up. We are getting into silly season. What is silly season? It's political season. So the way to keep up on what is going on during the silly season, the political season here in the United States, is the African Diaspora News Channel app. You can get it on Google Play, Apple Store. It will tell you a lot of things that are going on around in the diaspora, especially what is going on during election time. I want to say hi to Emperor Sunlight. Good to see you, Sunlight. Good to see you. But it's a great way to keep up with what's going on around in the diaspora. Because remember, Demetra, when we were in the last election cycle, I think it was the last midterms, it was no voting, no bucking, or whatever it was, and people cha-cha on the lines and stuff like that. And of course, you know, the Democrats had the power, and they opened the borders unscrupulously, and here's where we're at today. So the African Diaspora News Channel app, you can get on Google Play and Apple Store.
Yes, indeed, and absolutely. Hello once again to everybody who else came on here while Donovan was talking. We have Mad Dog. What's going on with you? Simply Sandra, what's going on with you? Beverly, how are you? Diane in the building. Hope you're doing well. And the Orange Pill Nurse, how you doing? Well, he says, but now y'all said she wasn't Black. Now y'all want her Black. Laugh out loud, complain about anything. Hey, brother Jonell, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Vendetta, what is going on with you? You better stop. Don't be calling ice on Kamala. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. So, of course, you guys know that again, it is Martin Luther King's birthday celebrated, not his actual birthday. Again, it's January 15th. But the government allows people to celebrate it, except for in my neighborhood, because we were thinking that Monday is our normal trash day. So we didn't set the trash out. And then all of a sudden we hear the trash. We're like, wait a minute, what? And it was like, oh, yeah, we forgot. You know, at Texas, I guess they don't care. They don't celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday. And the trash came. And, you know, we ran out there. When I say we, my daughter ran out there really quick to put the trash out so that we didn't forget. But it's like, wow, you know. And she says, you know, you can tell the Black people on the block because we didn't have our trash can out because we thought it wasn't coming. But, you know, Texas is like, we don't care about that Martin Luther. Y'all fill in the blank. Y'all know what they call him. But anyway, so today is the official federal holiday where some people got the day off of pay. I'll say.
Oh, and real quick, I want to just give a quick trivia. I know you guys, or some of you guys, enjoying your day off, and you should enjoy your day off, but a Republican president is the one that signed the MLK Day holiday into law, and that president was the infamous Ronald Wilson Reagan.
Absolutely. Signed it in 1983, but it did not come into fruition until 1986 because it went through some hoops and fires at Congress and things like that. Of course, we know Arizona and South Carolina were the last. South Carolina 2000 was the last to say, okay, you twisted our arm. We'll go ahead and, you know, honor MLK Day and all that other stuff. So anyway, of course, during MLK Day, there's a copious amount of parades, and you have a lot of politicians and pastors, everybody, they'll recite speeches. I Have a Dream is one of them. So this particular day, Kamala Harris on the 16th of this month, she went to Chicago, of all places, during the interfaith, event that they had, where they had a whole host of people. Sounds like she was the keynote speaker, invited by that of Mayor Brandon Johnson, and she, paid homage to J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and things like that. And she also said that on that particular day, she was going to go see Jesse Jackson. Of course, you guys know, I think he's about 88 years old, and he's ailing and things like that. But she decided to say a couple of things during her speech. Now, I sped it up for the sake of time. I cut off just the beginning of, the salutation and things like that. But you guys are going to hear what she has to say. So here we go.
Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. loved America. He loved our country, and his love was not passive. His love was not patient, and it was unconditional. Dr. King loved our country so much that he dedicated his life, and in the end, it was taken in a fight for America's highest ideal, the ideal of freedom. Dr. King believed that to love your country is to fight for your country, and the spirit and meaning of Dr. King's work and words helped fuel, over all these years, our enduring belief in America's promise. I got into Chicago late last night from Memphis. And while I was there, I spent time at the National Civil Rights Museum at the Lorraine Motel. Standing there, one cannot help but feel the weight of the stakes of what Dr. King confronted. Government-sanctioned segregation and redlining. The vote of the people denied by literacy tests and poll taxes. Churches bombed and people lynched. A child beaten beyond recognition and laying in a casket. Here, what we understand about that moment. Hate and fear were being weaponized by the powerful to terrorize those they saw as powerless. But here's the other truth about that time. The people were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so at lunch counters and on buses, in classrooms and in the streets, Dr. King and the leaders of that moment reminded the people of their power, reminded them that it doesn't have to be this way, that the power of protest, of organizing, of the collective can change the course of our history and our country and its history. And Chicago, isn't that true today? Isn't that true today? I will tell you, standing on the balcony at the Lorraine Motel yesterday, I thought about what Dr. King would see if he looked at America now. And what would he think? And what would he say? And I do believe he would see that people today are sick and tired of being sick and tired. When the president is rigging congressional maps to cheat, when he called a court and crafted a court to gut the Voting Rights Act, to silence our voice, when he incites distrust in our election infrastructure so that people won't vote, well, folks are sick and tired of being sick and tired. When the federal government rips people out of their car, out of their home, out of their church, when families are separated and a mother of 3 is shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. When our differences are treated as danger, when neighbors see one another as the enemy, and when social media and misinformation take hold of our lives and the lives of our children, well, people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. When rising costs and stagnant wages force working families to choose between rent or medicine, between childcare or groceries, between dignity or survival, people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when the President of the United States calls the civil rights movement, quote, reverse discrimination, we are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Now, I know many people in our country are feeling overwhelmed right now. Isolation and loneliness have led to despair. A long broken system has fueled cynicism and, yes, apathy. And people are rightly angry and profoundly frustrated. Far too many have resigned themselves that, well, I guess it's just gonna be this way. All while those in power attempt to divide the American people, attempt to make us distrust each other, to turn on each other, all while having us believe we are powerless in this moment. But let's pause for a minute to see the echoes of history. Yes, the threats we face, but also the power of the people. Let us see, like then, this is a moment not to throw up our hands, but a moment to roll up our sleeves. to organize, to register people to vote, and to speak and act with truth, power, and conviction. And I look around this room, I know the people of Chicago, well, you uniquely understand that the fight requires courage. It requires stamina, and it requires commitment. It requires us to show up even when we are sick and tired, because we are sick and tired. So to the leaders here, I say, let us continue to be clear-eyed. They may want us to be afraid, to be divided, to be silent, but we won't give them that satisfaction. We will continue the fight with determination, with resilience, and dare I say, with joy.
Wake up, Donovan. You stupid, I can't stand you. So, do you want to go first or you want me to go? Okay. So anyway, again, that was former Vice President. I'm going to stab him when I see him, I promise you. That was former Vice President Kamala Harris there again at an interfaith event in that city of Chicago. And I thought, wow, Chicago of all places, right? She says, y'all understand the unique situation. Is like, yeah, Chicago does. Well, that's a different story for right now. So anyway, I want to reiterate. She says, just talking about Martin Luther King, she says that we have to fight for our country. Then she referenced people, right? She says people who were, strung up by a rope. I don't want to say the word again. Disenfranchised when it came to voting, terrorized, the bus boycotts and the sitting at the lunch counters and the protest and the marching, right? She says people, and it's like, no, it was Black Americans, right? Now, yes, during Martin Luther King's Jr. speech, I have a dream. He mentioned other people one day we'll all, and I'm paraphrasing, right? We'll all be able to get along and this, that, and the other, the Jews, the Gentiles, this, that, and the other. We won't be judged by the character of our skin. But he was saying we, one day, everybody else, in a sense, will see us, as human or whatever, because he was going for civil rights and human rights, I guess, in some regards. But those people were Black Americans. But then during the latter part of her speech, she talks about, ICE and what they're doing in Minneapolis and what happened to Renee Good. Of course, she never mentioned Keith Porter, what happened to him in LA with the ICE agent, right? Again, he was on his porch New Year's Eve. And he was, firing something in the air, as a lot of people were, per a lot of testimony. And the ICE agent that was off duty decided to leave his home and take Keith Porter's life. And he gets an honorable mention at best when it comes to what ICE is doing to American citizens. Renee Good was an American citizen. She was also a white woman. Of course, we hear more people reference her because I guess that's where the headlines is. It's American as apple pie to hear about a Black man having his life taken, and, it's a shoulder shrug. But when it happens to a white woman, it's oh my God, let me clutch my pearls and let me talk about it indefinitely. Then, she talks about the misinformation. It's like, well, what? I'm sure there's a lot of misinformation out there, but what exactly are you speaking of? Right now, she talking about on the right, MAGA, or she talking about on the left? Because of course, new Black media have been accused of spreading misinformation, disinformation, and a whole host of other things. But yes, when I hear her, talk about the things that Martin Luther King was talking about, and that she didn't even mention the people he was talking about, I said, see, that's disingenuous right there, because it was Black Americans, and to the stuff that Dr. Martin Luther King was fighting for, that in turn actually helped everybody else. We hear Dr. Claude Anderson talk about it a lot, right? The civil rights movement that was supposed to be for us, and Coulter talked about it. Civil rights movement was supposed to be for Black Americans, but everybody you can think of, and there wasn't that many immigrants in America at the time when Martin Luther King, was fighting for civil rights for Black Americans, but somehow that got co-opted, which is why Dr. Claude Anderson tells us not to call ourselves minorities, people of color, marginalized people, because everybody else in that dichotomy or whatever it is, they get all that there is again. And we're like, well, that was kind of for us. So then you hear somebody like Kamala Harris, and she's a very smart lady. I don't care what nobody says. She knows what she's doing. You mean to tell me when you said people, you couldn't say Black Americans? You couldn't say who he was really fighting for? Right now, again, everybody else has benefited from it. But as I said yesterday, the Trump administration is right now, in my opinion, the great equalizer, because everybody could get it, But for her to get up there and again, in Chicago of all places, and they're doing what? A lot of the Black residents in Chicago are trying to flip it red. Well, some of them are, right? Chicago Flips Red, the group, Sister Jessica Jackson we had on here last week, Danny C., Zoe Lee, and a whole host of other people, right? They're trying to flip it red because they're tired of the benign neglect of the Democrats. And we know that Chicago is very blue. It has been blue for a very long time. The Democrats just have a strong hold on it, but they were like, enough. We are no longer going to continue voting for a party that will not do anything for us. And so you're there in Chicago talking about, oh, you guys understand? Of course they do, because that's where a lot of the immigrants, illegal immigrants, I should say, were sent. They were sent predominantly to the black neighborhoods, getting all that they could get. And Kamala knows because some of these governors sent some of the illegal immigrants to her doorstep, but they didn't stay there long. But then you got Mayor Brandon Johnson, who to this day is fighting to keep them there and spending a whole host of money and all kind of stuff. Him and J.B. Pritzker and all the other Democrats, they're fighting against ICE. And, they've won some battles in the federal court in regards to, Trump sending, ICE agents and things like that there. But it's funny because you're fighting for illegal immigrants, but you won't fight for Black Americans, and you holding the MLK Day, interfaith, whatever it is, and you bring Kamala on there as a keynote speaker to talk about MLK, the people he was fighting for. But then y'all really said to this day fight for illegal immigrants. To me, that's a slap in the face. And I will say this before I give it to Donovan. The Democrats want Black Americans back on board. They're going to have to stop that foolishness. Stop calling it people and call it who it was. It was Black Americans. He wasn't fighting for people. He was fighting for the rights of Black Americans and us getting some fair treatment around this joint. Donovan?
You ain't saying but a word there. Have you guys seen the signs in some of these protests with all the white people and stuff? And they're talking about immigrants built this country. I mean, they love to take our narrative and make it make it for themselves. So I took some notes as she was talking there, and I want you guys to understand this. And a lot of these immigrants do this, legal or illegal. They take our story as if it's theirs, and then they twist it like they, were in the march, whatever. Oh, my parents fought in the civil rights. Not saying that they didn't, not saying that they did, but what they didn't make them a Martin Luther King. You know what I mean? Kamala's trying to make it seem like her parents were just down for the cause. And that's just not the case. That is just not the case at all. And by the way, it's just amazing to me with all notice she didn't mention anything about all the corruption that is going around the country in these Democratic enclaves. She hasn't mentioned one thing about the corruption and the Democratic within the Democratic Party that is actually taking place. And by the way, here in California, not that it matters. She just bought an $8 million mansion. So she's telling you, she's telling you guys, we, like she can identify with what you're going through, not making your rent, not doing this, not doing that, right? She was the second powerful person in the world for 4 years. And now she's worried about sick and tired. Weren't you guys sick and tired 4 years ago? There was a greater president in the 1980s that I referenced before as we started this program. He got elected based on a statement that he made. And he just said, sum it up quickly. He said, ask yourself, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? That was Ronald Reagan against Jimmy Carter. And during that time, there was a big recession happening. People were losing their jobs. Factories were closing, et cetera, et cetera. Gas prices were up. It's a no-brainer. If you think you were better off 4 years ago than you are now, he didn't want you to vote for him. But a lot of people voted for him. I also put in what Martin Luther King would see if he was alive today. He would see the corruption of the Democratic Party and the benign neglect of the Democratic Party. How many of you guys saw the Boondocks, the episode with Martin Luther King, if Martin Luther King had lived? At the end of that episode, where did Martin Luther King end up going? He said, I'm out of here. I'm going to Canada. He moved to Canada. That's what Martin Luther King would be seeing. He would not be down for this democratic stuff. The man was a pastor. He wouldn't be down for LGBTQ thing. He wouldn't be against it in the aspect of loving your neighbor and all that other stuff, but he wouldn't be championing LGBTQ rights. He wouldn't be championing illegal immigration. He wouldn't be championing any of this foolishness that's going on within the Democratic Party. So we're sick and tired and sick and tired. I was sick and tired 4 years ago. I was sick and tired 6 years ago. We sick and tired, boss. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. And Levon and someone else said, I'm tired of politics. I'm tired of listening. So yeah, I mean, I'm tired of politics too. I ain't gonna lie. There's a lot of things I would like to talk about, but we have to talk about politics because it's sad, especially in our community, that we tend to be a little bit politically immature. You know, not just us, but other people as well. But I'm talking about us. So sometimes we got to talk about things, have conversations. You know, we don't always have to agree, but we have to have these conversations. But I would like to talk about other stuff, you know, here and there. But Anthony, how you doing? He says, I wish Kamala would have won in 2024. You know what? I think a lot of people wish she would have won. But you know what I wish Kamala would have done? I wish she would have been talking about something that we could have voted for her for. Right. But as a Black American, she was talking about continuing the benign neglect of Black Americans and I'm helping everybody else. So she just didn't give me anything to vote for. As I told you, I read her book. She seems like, you know, at least in her book, she seems a little bit different. I'm not saying she's better because she still kind of said the same things that she was on the campaign trail. But I wish she would have gave us something to vote for. She would have gave us something to vote for. Then, yeah, I'd have voted for her. But like I said, there was a few reasons why I couldn't vote for Kamala. One is that she lied and said that my friend Sheree was not a victim of her truancy policy, and it was a flat out lie. And to this day, Kamala has not said, you know what, I did that. She says nobody was hurt by that. It's like, okay, so yeah, maybe if she runs again, Anthony, you can get it to her people. Hey, you know, Black Americans are needing something they can sink their teeth into, because she also was infamously heard saying, I'm not going to do something that just benefits Black people. No, right? So get the word to her. We're looking for a reason to vote for her, but we're gone are the days where we as Black Americans are going to continue to show up. Well, some of us, I know some of us still like to kick in the tailbone, but gone are the days where some of us are just going to sign up just to vote for something, whether it's blue or red, just because. It's like, nah, what's in it for Black Americans? So yeah. Let's see. Just skipping down. Kevin says she's in a campaign mode for her next presidential run. Yeah, it's gonna be very crowded. I see a lot of people talking about they gonna run. Todd, he says, I'm sick and tired of those exploiting my people for political agendas designed to destroy my people. Yeah, but you know, she knows. Just Kamala, in a sense, has that Obama effect. Even though they're not in office anymore, they can show up and people are screaming, hollering, and say, oh, she really telling it like it is. It's like, no, really listen to what she's saying. She couldn't even say Black American. She deduced the struggle of our people down to people. It's like, well, yeah, I know there was other people there, but it was some people there that were outside of Black Americans, but it was mostly Black Americans, right? So to say who it was.
Yeah, the funny thing about Kamala too, and I notice with a lot of these Democratic politicians, especially the Black female ones, and I'm not trying to pick on the women, but especially the Black female ones, they're really drinking their own Kool-Aid. Jasmine Crockett, she thinks she's actually going to win that primary, and she's being blown out. Well, you know, I think it's like 10-point difference right now between her and the other Democrat in the primary. I want you guys to remember, as Kamala's political career was over in 2020 when what's her name, Blue Rock, Gabbard, yeah, whatever her name is, took her out in the primary. Joe Biden was forced to pick her so he could garner more of the Black woman vote. And, you know, and they know how that works. It's all political strategy, right? So her career was over. Now, you guys have got to realize, especially you guys that would vote Democrat, or you're a Kamala supporter, and you could be a Kamala supporter. That isn't what I'm saying you can't be. But you got to look at the numbers. She will not make it out of the primary, just like Jasmine Crockett, as popular and all this work and going to the carpet for the Democratic Party that Jasmine Crockett did. Look at her numbers right now in the Democratic primary. Even if she makes it out of there, she's not going to win in Texas. So if Kamala runs again, why do you think the Republicans are helping her run? They want Kamala Harris to run again because they know she will not make it out of the primary. She's never gotten one vote in a primary, not one. She won't even be able to hold her own state of California. Remember, California, 11 counties here flipped red in the last election under Trump. I mean, I'm not saying, support who you want to support, but the numbers do not lie.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, Kamala, I don't know. She said that she's running. At one time, she wasn't going to entertain it, but she might entertain it. So we know she's not going to run for the governor because that's kind of already, I guess, in motion for the
She would lose, and it would be embarrassing, and her career would be over.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking she's like, things are going to get so bad, and things aren't, they're not great. Let's keep it a buck, right? And Beverly, thank you so much for that. Love and appreciate you for the donation. But I think she is probably thinking, well, things are going to get so bad that any and everybody's going to say, hey, we want Kamala back. Now, again, there's a lot of people who are under the illusion that Kamala would have been better. And I don't know. And hey, Sweet Butters, how you doing? For some people, she might have been, but for Black Americans, she wasn't going to be better. She was going to rock us back to sleep, and everybody wasn't going to be getting equal treatment. Now we getting equal treatment, aren't we? From whether you're a white woman, you're Hispanic or Latino, you're Asian, you LGBT, everybody catching the bad one, right? But under Kamala, nope, it was just going to be us. We were going to be catching the bad one. And then some people in the MAGA, they were going to be thinking, oh, she's doing this and that to us, for whatever reason. But it was going to be Black Americans catching the bad one. But now everybody's catching it. So that's the one good thing I like about the Trump administration. Not that I like the administration, but yeah, it's everybody getting it. Ain't that something?
Yeah, No Nog 297 says Dems are going to crash and burn with the immigrants and double down. Instead of giving FBA, the people who vote majority blue, any tangibles dumb play. It is. See, that's what I'm saying. They are going so hard. Chicago, the bastion of a Democratic state, Illinois. Look at what's going on there with the Black people being disenfranchised and moved in real time. Put it like this, and I'm going to concede this, Demetra. If the Democrats want to win the next election, tangibles for Black people, get it done now. Get it done now. All they've got to do is do for Black people, and they will win. As a matter of fact, I was reading something yesterday, late last night, where the Democrats, the Democrat of DNC has even admitted they have a Black problem. And what they mean by a Black problem is they're hemorrhaging Black votes. Now, if you lose Chicago, the city of Chicago within itself, that voting block, that's a lot of electoral votes right there within the city. So they have a Black problem and they know it, but they refuse, once again, they refuse to do anything to uplift Black people. But yet they will go hard in the paint for people that aren't supposed to be here? Huh?
Yes, indeed. Elizabeth, how you doing? It says hello, Demetra and Mr. BYB. I think that's and it's Donovan. He says, this is my very first time catching you all live. I just want to say that because of all the lying and cheating and stealing, I'm sick and tired of these no good politicians. Yeah, absolutely. That's what they do, right? Politicians, they lie, and we fall for it as the American people. We fall for it, we believe them, and then they get in there and do everything but what they said they was going to do, right? So I totally agree with you. Black Rose, you say Obama, Kamala, Westmore, Brandon Johnson, Adams, and he's no longer in there. Zoran Mondani, he says, and Bass, just to name a few, are not FBA, but have brought much harm to FBA, always using FBA history to benefit others, but not FBA. So has it been decided that Brandon Johnson is not Black American? Because I hear him talk about the plantation and his ancestors a lot, but who knows, right? But yeah, totally. Bernie's, how you doing? Says, but Kamala comes from an immigrant family, but of course she will fight for them. Yeah, for me, I think it's disingenuous for her not to name and claim those people, right? Brother Jonell says, we care. We clearly know who and what MLK was fighting for against the same biased government who killed him for their political agenda. Kamala is a clown, as the company she upholds, or rather MLK would be their op. Yeah, but they like to co-op, right? All the things that were meant for us and then spread it to everybody else. And we are the last to benefit from any of that. He wasn't fighting for immigrants. He was fighting for Black Americans because, again, it wasn't that many immigrants over here like it is now. It was Black Americans that was catching the bad one. But, I guess she's saying the people, right? The people who fought, and boycotted the bus system. It wasn't the people; it was Black Americans who did that. Black Americans were getting the hoses and the dogs and all that, sicked on them and things like it. It wasn't people; it was Black Americans. So it's like, again, a lot of people show up and applaud that. And it's like, nah, hold her feet to the fire and make her come honest with it. But I guess R. Watkins, how you doing? And Angelia, how you doing? Says happy MLK Day. Yes, indeed. R. Watkins says Kamala bought an $8 million mansion in Malibu and she's keeping her other home in Westwood. She doesn't relate to us at all. Yeah, I think it's fair to say Kamala, when I say they, her and her husband, they had some money. She just came off of a book tour. She's had books before. So,
ain't nobody buying $8 million worth of books. Sorry.
I don't know, but a lot of times they get advances too. So I'm not quite sure what Kamala's money looked like. But yeah, buying an $8 million house, I mean, I'm sure she's probably got a mortgage on it unless she bought it outright. I don't know, And Bill, you say, hell no. Marvin, how you doing? Says these people are a piece of work. Okay. And let's see. And let's go on down because I see him behind just a tiny bit. Sweet Butter, she said, same old playbook. Yeah, that was her thing. Kelly, how you doing? Says both parties can't be trusted. I totally agree with you. Going down, Brother Reddy says, I wish Kamala would left public life in 2020, go open that bar and be gone. He swear up and down she'd be sitting up behind a box of wine. Mad Dog says, like I said before, Obama was a fraud for Black Americans. Yeah. And he even said so in a sense, right? I wasn't going to do nothing for Black Americans, right? Everybody else was going to be mad if I did. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing. It says, I hope her book was a bootleg copy. Now somebody bought it for me because they wanted me to read it. They were asking me what I thought about it. I said, I haven't read the book. I can't go off of people going other people's opinions of somebody else's opinion. They didn't even read the book. They just, you seeing somebody else talk about it. So they bought me the book and I ran it on down to them, what it was about. That's how it's right here. As a matter of fact, I don't know why I still have it here, but that's how I ended up with the book. I said, buy it for me. I read it. And there it is. It was a pretty good read, for what it was worth. I didn't hate it, she pretty much talked about the same old stuff, same old playbook. Maureen, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. One who cares, how you doing? Hope you're doing good today. Miss Red Wine, what's going on with you? I love you. Right back. Let's see. Ayo, what's going on? She says nobody cares about Kamala. Well, she jumped back in the race. I don't know. Will people give her almost $2 billion more to do it again?
Nope. Matter of fact, her donors, nope. She is delusional. That's what I'm saying. These politicians are delusional about how popular they actually are. She won't make it out of the primary, you guys. Donovan said it. Matter of fact, Demetria, the last election, what did I tell you about the election? I said Kamala would get what?
Stomped.
Blown out, and she got blown out. She will not make it out of the primary, you guys. She just won't. She is not that popular. You need, 55 electoral votes here in California, which is very important. She might win California. She might win California, but the rest of the country, ain't gonna happen.
Isn't it more now that California is able to keep the seats?
Yeah. I believe it's a little bit more than that. But the point is, though, she's not gonna make it out of that primary, you guys. And if she does, that's because the Republicans want her to. They want her to.
Yeah, she hasn't. I mean, she's done in her other races that weren't on the federal level. But Sister Sunlight says, what exactly was in her book that changed your opinion of her as a politician? That book was written afterwards, and she displayed what she displayed is that she's cosplaying a liar. No, I didn't say necessarily change my mind. I think I just kind of reading the book again. Things read differently than people, I guess, in a sense, are in real life. I just think if she was that personality, I think she would have been a little bit more likable. But I've always said, even reading that book, that she suffered from the Obama effect, and that Obama was probably a little bit more down to earth, but he was afraid of making white folks mad. And I think the same thing was for her, in some regards. So I don't know if I necessarily have a change. My opinion of her as a politician didn't change. I think personally, I see her differently because a lot of times you don't see them personally. She seems like she's a little bit more down to earth. But I will say in her book, just kind of from the things that I saw happen on the campaign trail and the things that she talks about, it looks like there was a lot of sabotaging of her going on from within her team and obviously outside of the team. So she was fighting a battle on both ends. And even Trump said that she should have never allowed the Democrats to throw her in like that. He said it. He said she should have said no because she was not prepared, and she was already fighting uphill battle. And in this book, she kind of conceded that, like, yeah, I mean, Joe Biden was doing stuff. I mean, he put on the MAGA hat, and it was just a lot. So she was always working backwards. So yeah, I think it was a lot of sabotaging going on.
I agree with you on that. And also, you guys got to take in the she won't make it out of the primary. If she does, it's going to be a blowout at the national election. So just like it recently was, no matter, talk about she needs more time. But you guys are also not figuring in the one big factor. What's the big factor? White women. If Hillary Clinton couldn't get elected, who was the most qualified person ever, male or female, to run for president, you think they're going to let a first generation immigrant get into that position? Ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. That is the phantom menace, is that white woman vote. And we know how reliable they are when it comes to, things that are issued for them.
Yeah. No, how you doing? Since they putting all the eggs in the basket and the eggs in the immigrant basket, and it ain't going to work. They have conservative values and think they are white or close to it. Their values are more Republican. Yes. And that's to my point. So white women, I don't know how much they showed up for Kamala, but the immigrants, or I say the Latino, they still voted for Trump almost as much as they voted for her. So it's like, even to this day, the Democrats are getting up there fighting for, and I say legal immigrants, not the immigrants that are here legal, but legal immigration. So it's like, y'all people, but then the other part of that too, especially Latinos and other immigrants, they're like, nah, you illegal immigrants ain't coming over here and getting it when I have to get it the right way, right? So there's a lot of rift between them in regards to that. But the people who will benefit from her presidency, they won't even show up to vote for her. The Republicans, the men, they constantly telling the woman what she can and can't do with her body, and white women, they sound good, just like they did during the women liberation movement. I'm burning my bra. But then they go home to that white man, right? Even though he says, you don't have no control over your body. We do. We're going to make laws to where you can't have any say so. And if you go and do something that you aren't supposed to do, we're going to put you and the doctor in prison. And they still show up to vote for them. So they like it here. Let's see. And Brother Jonell says Kamala will never be president. She'll do better running for a Santa Claus. You crazy. Rodney, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Brother Reddy says Jasmine crying for Renee makes perfect sense. Renee was a part of the alphabet mafia. That's who Jasmine supports, plus illegals. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I have to look at that again when she was crying. Locke, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Synovia, what's up with you? Says my parents and grandparents, and the list goes on, were diehard Democrats. And what did they get for their vote? Nothing. And unfortunately, a lot of people show up to get more of nothing again, right? I think that the Democrats will flip one of those, whether the House, probably not the Senate, I don't know, remains to be seen, but I think they'll flip at least the House, because I think a lot of people on both sides are like, okay, that's enough trumping, okay? That's enough trumping, because the people that's supposed to hold Trump accountable, they're not doing it. There's a lot of yes people, but do you see some Republicans that are starting to say, okay, it was cute when we thought we was really going to take this country, by the horns, and we was going to ride it down and force the American people to do this, that, the other. But they like, okay, you ain't going to be in office no more after this. We trying to be here. So we're going to, talk about, getting health care for people and things like that. But before, they was like, nah, we riding and dying with Trump, but not so much now. They like,
And that's the point. When a president's in his second term, he doesn't have to keep any of his promises. And I don't know why these representatives are so afraid to put him in check. He's done. He's finished.
Yeah, but see, and I think a lot of them are starting to wake up. And he says they have it built in that we're on the bottom. Absolutely. But I think a lot of those Republicans are starting to understand, like what you just said. Okay, in my shenanigans, right? Trump, this is his last term, and he gonna take us all to hell with him, because he already said he ain't going to heaven when he was asked. So he gonna take us all to hell with him. He can't run again. We can run again. And we also heard him say, hey, Republicans, ram all this stuff through, because we might be going to jail, right? They're gonna impeach me, right? Because they're mean, they're nasty, they're evil. You talk about the Democrats, right? So I think a couple of them was like, why he sitting up there talking about y'all need to ram all these bills through before we go to jail? Because my second question is, or first question is, what are you doing to go to jail, sir? Are you doing something? So I think a lot of them was like, you ain't sending us with you if you go, right? So yeah, a lot of them was like, that was fun, but there's real consequences to the things that we're doing here. So yeah.
But you know, it's funny how people forget that sister girl white woman would have made a difference in the election for Kamala Harris. She would have made a difference. And when I mean sister girl white woman, not just those, it's also those that identify as white women, being the Hispanic vote and all that other stuff. But again, why is it's something for Black people where we just look at these white people and we just give them all this trust and, that's my girlfriend, we good, and this, that. I was always taught by my mom, they smile in your face all the time. They want to take your place, those backstabbers. You never trust these people. They don't have a history. They don't have a history of being trusted. But yet we go in there time and time and time again. And that's what I'm saying. Jasmine Crockett and her thinking these white women got their back. Roe versus Wade, when Trump did that, where were the white women there? Where's the outrage? You see what I'm saying? But we fall for it over and over again. That is the phantom menace y'all better be paying attention to.
Pete Rocky crazy. And average logical thinking, thank you so much for the donation. Love and appreciate you. He says Kamala is Indian. She needs to support Vivek, but never critical of Indians in Brampton who disrespected Black people there. Nah, she ain't gonna disrespect her own people, right? Yeah, poor Vivek. I don't know. He's running for governor of Ohio, I think it is. I don't know if he'll be successful. Probably not. Mwendo.
Yeah, he turned off his Twitter or his X account because of the comments.
And ain't he a billionaire? Vivek is a billionaire.
He's what do you call that? The same thing as Mitt Romney. He's in
a medical something. Doing
no. He's he goes in there and takes over companies, stocks and just.
So venture capitalist.
Venture, yeah, he's a capital, venture crowlist, whatever you want to call it.
So Vivek has got he's a billionaire, and he rubs elbows with them folks. But look how they was doing him. They was doing him so bad. Denise D'Souza was saying something. A lot of his people was like, "Wait a minute, now I thought we were talking bad about Blacks together. You're not supposed to do it to us." And they was like, "Man, some of those videos and things that them folks were saying about him, I was like, wow." Some of those videos about them being, street vending, I was like, come on now, y'all doing a little too much.
Yeah, and the thing is, especially those of us that are parents and stuff, when you send your kids to these colleges, I want you to go to those colleges and think about this. Here in California, they have a specific office for dreamers. It's a specific office for dreamers, but yet you don't have anything for Black people who are the least financially stable to go to a college. Think about that. What is going on there? So these school boards and the college boards, you guys, a lot of parents don't even know that those specific offices exist for those people, and they get all the resources and support that they need with our tax dollars.
You know what, Brother Reddy, is funny. I was thinking about Roland the other day, not because I was fantasizing about him, but I was thinking he's been very quiet. I haven't seen him on my timelines or anybody talking about him. I don't follow Roland, but I haven't seen anybody talk about him. Like, he's been kind of quiet. Where has he been? Because, usually you'll see or hear about him being on the scene. I don't know, has he gone to Minnesota? I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen anything about it. Has he mentioned anything about Keith Porter, Renee Good, or any of that other stuff? I don't know. Is he still with us?
But you know nothing, Simple Simons. But
No, I'm just saying I haven't seen or heard anything about Roland Martin, so I don't know. Is he good? I don't know. Maybe he's just.
I think he's fighting that check. I guess they called that check back, and he tried to cash it, and it didn't go through.
Or it bounced. Lockie said, remember, I'm not going to do anything just for them because they're black statement in that interview. Yeah, and she, she didn't back up off of that. And of course, there are some people like Al Sharpton and them. Well, she said she was going, she's, for reparations, like, nah, she kind of had a tiny conversation about the study of reparations, but she said what she said the first time. And that's why I'm not going to do anything just for black people now. So she said what she said, and we believed her. Ain't that what Maya Angelou said? People show you who they are the first time, believe them. So yeah, Ryan, how you doing? Says peace, respect. Hell no, sir. What Hillary DOC HC qualified pin on that? Okay. Sister Sunlight says if she thought that Biden was going to really support her after she called him a bigot and a predator, she's not that smart. Remember, Biden had allegations out there. God knows what happened. Yeah, and Jill Biden, and she talked about this in the book. Jill, Joe Biden's wife, she was salty. She probably salty to this day. Kamala said we weren't invited to 4th of July. Said they never were invited. I guess traditionally, presidents don't invite the vice president, but she said she wasn't invited to where her and her husband would just do 4th of July with the Secret Service and their security detail. But she said they were finally invited when Joe Biden tapped out. They wanted to bring him over, and Jill Biden ripped her husband a new one. Took him upstairs and went off on him, is what she said, right? She said, I could tell that Doug, that's her husband's name, he was visibly shaken by how, I guess, Jill Biden talked to him. But yeah, she never forgave Kamala for calling him a racist and other things. So yeah.
And you also got to think about this. When a person is so quick to accept a nomination of somebody who saved your political career, that's backstabbing in itself. You can't trust that person. You just can't. I saved your political career, and the minute that they ask you to take my spot without consulting with me first, you jump at the chance. Opportunist.
Well, and it's just in my assessment. I don't, and like I said, I don't have anything personally against Kamala. I think Kamala unfairly gets the blame for the backstabbing because we know that it was Nancy Pelosi and a whole host of them that twisted Joe Biden's arm. He didn't want to get out, right? It was the oligarchy. Let's call them that, the oligarchy, not the Ola, but the oligarchy.
Sloganize him. Stop sloganizing.
Yeah, all of them. They was like, "Hey, Joe Biden, it's time." He didn't want to do it. But yes, your Nancy Pelosi, she put the muscle on him because Nancy is the muscle of the Democrat Party. She just is. I know she's not running anymore, but she is. And so they told him it's time for you to step down. But I think, unfortunately and unfairly, Kamala got the blame for that. Now, she explained that, and it makes sense. I ain't got to lie to kick it on Kamala or nothing like that. It makes sense. She, knew all the talking points and all that. She's second in command with 107 days to go. Who else were they going to put in there? Now, they could have probably put somebody else, and maybe they would have won. I don't know, but
should have done a primary, even if it was a quick one. That's what they should have done. But it's like you and I on this show.
Yeah.
If something happened to you and you got too old, which you're getting up there, the rabbit's getting old, baby, and I got to take over your show, that isn't a good look for me. It's kind of like LeBron James and Bronny James. It isn't a good look that you're coming in and I'm not that good. You know what I mean? So she should have known better.
She should have known better. I think because Kamala has higher aspirations. She's run for president once before. She probably thought, okay, this is
that coochie could only get you so far, Demetra.
And you know what though? Like I said, every time y'all mention Kamala Coochie, I'm gonna say she need to write a book on how to get to the top because ain't no broke sucker ever been in a room with Kamala. Probably ain't ever smelled it, looked at. It's none of it, right? So if she gonna write a book, she need to write one on how to get to the right one, so where you get to where you need and not have to bring home 50% of the rent. Okay, now, so yeah, so she has aspirations of being president. So she probably thought, okay, this is going to be easy. Everybody hates Trump, right? We done did this hate campaign. Trump's this. I'll just go on in there. And for a minute, everybody was like, oh, it's the joy. It's the vibes. Kamala, and then she got, stomped, for lack of better words.
So when you have ghetto artists and city girls out there and non-credible people like Steve Harvey, I'm gonna give her a layup. That's why I'm gonna give her another one. And just arrogant within itself. $20 million you go through in 107 days, and you're going to be in charge of the money in this country. And we see that you come from California, and we look at California with all the homelessness and the foolishness that's going on and the missing money. Oh no.
I mean, like I said, in all fairness, I mean, Trump has some ghetto people up there as well, right? People just, I don't know. Amber Rose, was she any better? She showed her whole snatch or the lack thereof on Instagram, right? And got that photo. It's a lot. So I guess, yeah, Kamala, and I agree with Trump on that 120%. I agree with him. You let them use you. He said she should have never, and he was vehement about it. She should have never allowed the Democrat Party to use her, and they did. And so, will she ever be president again? Probably not, because, like you said, she blew through all that money. And then you got a lot of the black folks who still can support her, like your Rowlands and all them. She gave them peanuts compared to what she gave everybody else. There were some white firms that got millions, and they got 100,000s. To sit up and give her that softball interview energy. And look where it got him.
And when it comes down to it, without those super donors, you can't run a national campaign without the money. And nobody, it's kind of like what's going on in the WNBA in the negotiations that they're doing. How do you go up there and say that you deserve this money, and these owners have been losing money for 30 something years? You know what I mean? So without those donor money, no donor is going to give her another $20 million or $20 billion, whatever it was she spent. And then wait, she spent all of that money and did way worse than they predicted she would do. She got stomped, did not get one swing state. Nobody's going to invest in a person that did that route. You had your chance. Next up.
Yeah. She blew through a lot of money. I think she would just, she had a lot from what she was saying. There's a lot of handlers. A lot of those people were Joe Biden's people. So they just kind of switched over to her campaign. So she was working backwards from the very beginning. So it might have been better for somebody else to get on in there. But yeah, that Kamala was sabotage. And I think the call was coming from in the house. They did a lot to trip her up. Sweet Butter says they only choose black women with white husbands or white wives, right? Black women with white wives. Yeah, they do that. And I think we kind of know the gig is up with that. Let's see. But Obama, he had a black woman, and I think, and he even kind of talked about it a little bit. And it's been talked about that he couldn't have been a black man with a white woman running for the presidency, because a lot of black women who do vote, right? And vote Democrat would have been like, I'm sorry, sucker. Not with Becky Ann, but they would have voted for Kamala, with a white man, because they see things differently, right? What everybody need, black women, that's okay, get you a Brad. Those type of black women think it's all right to get you a Brad. That's what they call them, right? Or get you something new. Slim Slammer, what's going on with you? Quan, what's going on? He says, I personally don't consider Kamala a black woman. They white supremacy use her like a black woman. Nothing new under the sun. Thus, black women, this should be a true wake-up call about white supremacy. Yeah, they use people who can cosplay. Mark, how you doing? Says she just playing the black card. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Yeah, I think they have a lot of them who do that. Even black people, about black politicians who are truly black. I don't know, like I said, I think they all kind of go to that school of speaking, like a Baptist preacher. You better thank a union member, right? Or you listen to Ralph Warnock, he sounds just like Obama if you close your eyes. And some of these cats in Memphis, the Justins is what they call them. They all kind of sound the same, and they know that plays on us emotionally. Ooh, they sure is preaching what they talking about. I don't know.
Remember Hillary Clinton? I sure is not tired. Remember, she was reading that book, and she was reading that poem, and she went into her, or was that the barbecue hot sauce? Well, is it working?
Yeah,
she was telling it straight.
The hot sauce in the bag, and Charlamagne said they're gonna say you pander. She says, "Well, it's working." Right, like Roland told her to learn how to do the wobble. You would get a lot of votes if you learn how to do this. And he literally said that. It's like, my God. Black Rose says FBA is your Democrat city council that created these sanctuary cities. Vote them out because legal people don't need sanctuary cities. You're right about that. Sunlight says she just bought $8 million house. Maybe she does need those donors, or she doesn't need those donors. Yeah.
For a national campaign, remember they gave her $20 billion. $20 billion. A national campaign, you need money. $8 million, or let's say she has 30 million.
You mean
that ain't gonna cut it? Yeah, I'm sorry, 2 billion. That ain't gonna cut it. Yeah, that ain't gonna cut it. For a national campaign, you need billions.
Yeah. Corey says who for 2028. I mean, it's 2 years away. I guess by what next January or maybe even the end of this year, we'll start hearing about who's serious about running. I don't know who would be a good candidate. I hear Gavin Newsom's name is in there, but then they said he got he was on what's the guy's name? Ben Shapiro, I think his show. And he was saying some things that a lot of people are like, wait a minute, can't really say I'm on here, but he kind of raised an eyebrow some of the things he was saying. Mark Kelly, they're saying Senator Mark Kelly, that he is now, talking about it, especially since what's his face? What's the dude? The Secretary of War.
Yeah.
Hegseth talking about docking his pay because he told the military not to obey illegal orders. Now Mark Kelly is suing. And so now people are saying, okay, Mark Kelly, and he's the husband of Gabby Gifford is her last name.
Yeah, Gabby Gifford. Gabby Gifford was shot. The one was shot.
In the head. So there's a lot of people saying, well,
Mark Pritzker. That's why he's losing all that weight.
Oh, JB Pritzker. Yeah. I don't think people really want him, but Mark Kelly, a lot of people are saying, yeah, I go for that, right? Because he's standing up against the Trump administration, stuff like that. So it just remains to be seen on the Republican side. Hell, if you ask the MAGA Trump, Trump is he ain't going nowhere because Steve Bannon said, oh, he's not done. He's just getting started. It's like, is he even gonna be here, like above ground? In I don't know. Burnish shed, brass. They say traders. And Ma'am, how you doing? Says blackface in the high places. Yes, indeed. King Noble says watching Roland dance for Hillary was such an embarrassment. He was dead serious too. Rare Rhino Studio, because y'all names are kind of squashed together. As y'all can see, some of the names don't even come up, but I know that's Corey. You say, I think you're incorrect about Vice President Harris. Biden did not really support her on the DNC, and media played her down. No, I mean,
Are you wait, what election were you watching? Everything was positive. Kamala Harris. What? See, and no disrespect, but that goes to show you people's perspective of what they see. If you looked at the news media, Donald Trump was almost never on there. And if he was on there, it was negative because the news is controlled by the Democratic machine. I mean, the DNC gave her overwhelming support. What? And to use Joe Biden politically as somebody who's a political junkie, that would have been a mistake. So you want to distance yourself from Joe Biden and his policies because people were suffering. So, I'm not sure what election you were watching, but
yeah. Hey, brother Sammy, how you doing? Says Kamala just left Jackson, Mississippi for her book tour. My former middle school athlete and now comedian interviewed her. She talked about how they were prepped for a protest. So a protest now or back in the day. So she's still on her book tour. It's an interesting book. I mean, it wasn't a bad read. I think she pretty much talked about a lot of things that happened. She definitely still pro-Israel, right? She mentioned that quite a few times in the book. It's like, okay, tell us how you really feel about that kind of stuff. And she called herself black, a whole host of I'm trying to remember.
She's not black, but go ahead. It's an adjective. Yeah, it's an adjective.
I don't know what the lady is, right? Like I said,
it's an adjective. Like I said, it's an adjective.
I'm telling you what the lady said, okay, in the book. That's not what I'm saying, is what she said. That she might have mentioned Indian a few times, but she mentioned herself being black. more than any time. I don't know what the lady is, and I've always said that I'm not going to die on a hill of what Kamala is, because whether she green, purple, black, orange, but like Trump, it's what she going to do. Because you could be very black, you could be blue black Southerner, right? In the words of Digital Underground, you could be a blue black Southerner. And there has been some blue black Southerners that's not done a damn thing for Black Americans. So I think, and for me, I just thought it was kind of silly for people to spend time on that. If she lying about being black, she may be. But if she was black, she's white or whatever, it's what she gonna do for us. She's already said that she wasn't gonna do anything specifically for us. So yeah. But so yeah, Brother Sammy says she's still on her book tour.
I hope they interview her like that one thing where she got pissed off when they asked her questions they weren't supposed to ask, and she stormed off.
Oh,
I would love to see that again.
The National Black Journalists Association,
whatever.
Yeah. African Native says instead of donating to either political party, we should create a relief account where every Black American donate $1 per month, which will generate approximately $40 million per month. I totally agree with you. We can buy, in a sense, a candidate, because that's what most people do. But the other thing too is Andrew Yang. A lot of people didn't like him. He wasn't for reparations per se, but he sure was for that UBI. And a lot of people did not want to vote for him. And he also talked about democracy, dollars, right? Give everybody a certain amount of money, all Americans, certain amount of money, get rid of the lobbyists and influencing politicians, and let the Americans decide who they want to put their money to. And that's the campaign money that the candidates get. But people didn't like that idea. But yeah, I like that idea for us as Black Americans. Let's donate $1 a month. And we could buy somebody.
Yeah, but here's the problem. But here's the problem with that, African Native, with all the corruption that has been going on around the country and stuff. People have lost faith in these nonprofits and donating to this. And this is what happens in this country when other groups come here and loot us and take our faith-based organizations that we use to help people, and they abuse it the way that they do. Especially when you're not a citizen or you're, recently arrived citizen. This is why people stop donating to these organizations and things. It's like going to the church. A lot of people donate for the lifestyle of the pastor and his family. A lot of people stopped going to the church because people saw it was a scam. It's a good idea, but with all of this stuff going on, I just don't think people are gonna, rush to it as they should. Put it like that.
I think that they would, and we have to have somebody, obviously, that we trust. Nobody like a known politician to do it. But I like that African Native that relief count could also help build Black-owned hospitals and universities, and that's what we're actually being called to do. So what you're saying is the blueprint. We've been told that to pool our money together and build our own stuff. Dr. Claude Anderson says that's how we buy, in a sense, into politics and the police department, courts, and things like that. So you're on to something. We should be doing that. So you're 100% right, and it can be done. Our people used to do it before, And then we got hoodwinked with this, civil rights thing. Classic. How you doing? Says shame on her. Moves, what's going on with you? Says yeah, they're back. Celebrate. He says good to see you back, Demetra and the Black Yule Brenner. Absolutely, yes, indeed. And we are happy to be back. Orion said this is the time to govern yourself and move accordingly in contracts. And our Brother Salmon says the protest now, I believe Kamala's people told of one that just occurred in New Orleans. So, okay, so they were talking about one that's going on now. I wonder if Kamala will be there. Sister Sunlight says she claims all this sabotage yet after asked repeatedly to separate from Biden, she wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I from what she was saying, I could see the sabotage. And she didn't necessarily say it was sabotage. That's what I deduced from reading the book, that it was sabotage. Just some of the things that, were going on. It's kind of like they were kind of making it hard for her a little bit. Certain things she didn't want to do, but they was like, no, we got to do it type thing. So that was just kind of what I abstracted from reading the book, that it was some sabotage that went on. And listen, I don't have to lie on Kamala or any of that kind of stuff. I know a lot of y'all don't like Kamala. I'm one of those people. I don't know Kamala personally, so I don't have an opinion on her personally. I have an opinion on her politics. And from what I read, yeah, the lady was sabotaged. But because I don't like her politics, I'm not gonna lie to fit a narrative. Because everybody else, I'm just telling you what I read. Now, I'm a pretty good reader, I think.
Well, and I think Kamala's a smart woman. I'll give that. She went to Howard, whatever. And I agree with you. I do believe she was sabotaged because she's a member of the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party is a white supremacist organization based on keeping Black people at the bottom with a military arm known as the KKK. So it is feasible that they would sabotage her. They're not going to sit there and stand and have to take orders from this adjective Black woman and see her be president. They'd rather see racist Donald Trump be president than her. Of course they sabotage her. I can believe that.
And not only that, can you imagine Joe Biden? You know, they had to, you know, hog tie him pretty much to get up out the race. So he ain't gonna want to see. And y'all got to remember too, during Kamala's presidency, and we talked about this a lot. Kamala, yeah, they gave her some roles, but she didn't really start stepping up and doing things out in the forefront until maybe like the last year or so. And she talked about it. She says, we all saw the writing on the wall, even though in public, and she was guilty of it too, saying, oh no, he's fine, because that was the talking points, because he was going to run. There was nothing they could do, and, you know, until Nancy got involved and a couple other key players to get him to tap out. But yeah, they didn't want Kamala to run, and Joe Biden and Jill, because Jill has a lot to say, right? They wasn't going to see Kamala win, you know, and he had to tap out. So yeah, there was a lot of sabotage. And to your point, Donovan, I think people missing this point. It's the money game. We get caught up in the Democrats and the Republicans. They all in the same gang, and they all want the money, and regardless of who is in office. Joe Biden, you know, he talk a good game, and Trump talk a good game, but they all friends at the end of the day. I mean, for God's sake, the man put the MAGA hat on. Now you could say, oh, maybe he wasn't in his right mind, but it's like, was he? Why would you put a MAGA hat on and you, Kamala, and Trump are at the same event? You know, they was doing something for veterans, and he goes and put on two MAGA hats, one on top of the other. She says she's sitting across the room, is like, Joe, please. She's saying to herself, Joe, please don't do this. But we saw those things, and we saw him do that. So she's just kind of verifying the back end of what happened. That's why I said I believe that she was sabotaged, but no, they weren't going to see Kamala. And people got to remember too, as I've ran, well, I don't say I run a campaign, but I've worked on campaigns, and I know that while the candidate is in a sense the boss, they not really the boss unless they putting up their own money. And Kamala wasn't playing with her own money. She was playing with, you know, all kind of
the money he had already raised. Yeah. Exactly.
So she got to do what they said. And she said that I literally walked into a campaign that was already set up for Joe Biden. So she is, I know people are thinking, because I saw some people say right there, she has the poor leadership skills. She probably does. I don't know. But I'm saying, when you think about the nature of a campaign, you ain't just, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. It's like, nah, these donors want you to do A, B, C, and D. And if you don't, then good luck next time, homegirl.
Yes. And then Demetria knows what she's talking about, because she ran my campaign and we got some fisticuffs going. And at the end of the day, I'm the boss. I'm paying the bills.
There you go. Right? Donovan's, you know, he funded his own campaign. So I could suggest some things, but if he had donors, it's like, nah, homie, you know how it go. You better put them fishnets on.
Yeah, that white envelope is a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing. And in rebuttal, Sunlight says, what I'm saying is all this was going on behind the scenes with Jill and Joe, yet she publicly campaigned that she wouldn't deviate from Biden's policies.
Well, so what you going to do? You going to tell the boss, you know, or your predecessor, whoever it is, that I don't like nothing you doing. It's a playbook. They got to stay on code. They all have the same playbook, because that really would have caused a schism. Because what you see, and this is, and I'm not saying nothing about you, Sunlight, but I'm saying, I'm just kind of thinking about it. For her to get up there and say, oh, yes, I would do everything differently. You know, by her saying that, that means that she called everybody a liar who said that it was nothing wrong with Joe Biden and what he was doing. They thought the country was doing all right, the groceries, this, that, and the other. For her to get on the View and say, I'm going to do everything differently, she would have called everybody from Nancy Pelosi, Obama, his mama, everybody would have been a liar. So she had to stay on. They, believe it or not, they got a code too. Now, whether she really did anything, I just think, honestly, just kind of reading the book and even kind of knowing a little bit about Kamala, she was just unprepared altogether, right? They threw her on, she allowed them to do it out there, you know, because y'all remember, it took her a long time to even speak, right? She didn't want to do interviews. And then when she started to do the interviews, it's like, ugh. she can't, she's a horrible interviewer, right? Because in a sense, she kind of rested on Pretty with the giggling and laughing and the joy and stuff. So when she gets on The View and they ask her, well, would you do anything differently? She says, and she paused for a second. I can't think of anything. So she didn't know what to say, but she knew she better not have said, yeah, in fact, I don't like the way Joe Biden was doing this, that. Yeah, that's so she was not gonna be willing to throw everybody under the bus. And I'm not speaking for Kamala, but to me, it's just kind of common sense that you ain't gonna get up there and call everybody a liar, are you? Because you wouldn't be able to run for dog catcher if you got up there and did that. The DNC would have made sure of that. So yeah, they kind of like a gang if you think about it. I think. Let's see. And Bernie says, don't forget Joe Biden fell off a bike that wasn't even moving. You crazy. Yeah, everybody could see the dude had something going on, but it was the playbook. We gonna pretend like, because they used to play the American people as suckers, But the time he said, let us not forget that no matter who wins, there's a hidden hand that has a prescribed script that must be followed. It's all a game. Yeah, Kamala was not gonna get up there and say, I do everything. That would people... the voters might have liked her to say that, yeah, but she would have paid for it. They had to make sure she paid for that. You don't speak against Big Daddy, and because that Biden is still Big Daddy, right?
But that goes to show you how powerful these parties are in regards. I mean, have you guys ever noticed when you look at these black politicians, and especially the FBA ones, that even you can see it in their eyes, they don't mean what they say, but yet they go hard because they don't want to go against the company line. They're Democrats before they're black. Everything is Democrat first, the agenda, rather than being loyal to us, the people who put them into that position. Look at Jamie Harrison. Wasn't he not the DNC chair when all this was going on? He's gone. Nancy Pelosi stepped down after they lose power. Isn't that strange? And then she gives it to this Timo Obama, who looks like a stupid clown. I mean, did you guys see how this works? Because one thing we know about white supremacy, once they're done with their tools, they break them every time.
And Kamala ain't stupid. Yeah, Sister Sunlight. So it says basically, damn if she did and damn if she don't. She know what's up. Everybody know the rules of the game. Not the game, but the game. Everybody know the rules. You know what you can and you cannot do. And you just got to play along, right? I don't care where it is. There's a system in everything. There's a way of going. Donovan to tell you, being in the military, I'm sure there was things that he saw, but he's like, I seen it, but I ain't going to say nothing because we got rules, right? It's the game. It's gang activity. So Kamala knew, she probably would have done some things differently, but she knew better. She knew better. They don't have these esoteric societies for nothing. That's why they secret societies, because there's things that you should never talk about. You just go along with it. Otherwise, it may cost you your life. And we've seen that unfold, right? They still trying to figure out who did what to JFK. And depending on what you believe, he got off script. Right? He was talking
Ron Brown, whatever happened to him under Clinton.
Then his plane crash. So you see what I'm saying? So them people know that you take some sort of an oath, right? You pinky swear or whatever it is. You take all this to the grave. You just shake your head. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't think of nothing. When we could all see like, damn. But so I'm not saying that to absolve Kamala of going along with the get along, but everybody goes along with the get along.
Yeah, and didn't she say she received a call from Biden that said, there's no daylight between us, kid? Almost, I'm not saying it was a threat, but he was kind of saying, hey, there's no daylight between us. There's no difference between us.
Yeah, I'm sure she was told, don't forget to dance with who brought you. Because Biden selected Kamala, and Kamala, like you said, even though, and we know that Kamala was used to, for the black women, the black vote, right? Because her campaign was over before it started, right? And then what else was it? She called him all kind of racist and all kind of stuff, and he still selected her. So I'm sure
I'm that girl. She had all the shirts ready and everything.
Yeah, so I'm sure that's why Jill was like, listen, Heifer, I remember what you did a couple summers ago. I remember what you did. You called my husband a racist, right? And I'm never gonna forgive you for that. So don't you forget who brought you home, girl. I'm sure it was a lot of that going on, right? So what Kamala wasn't gonna do is get up there and flip the table over. Now Trump, on the other hand, yeah, Trump he got all kind of daggers, on people's backs because he's just that guy for whatever reason. But no. So I know on our side it's easy to say what they would have, could have, should have did, but they know better. Red Rhino Studios, it says, I think Harris will be running 2028. Who can outrun her? Oh, there's a lot of people. I think Kamala, in some polls not too long ago, she actually came toward the bottom. Gavin Newsom was at the top. So if you put Mark Kelly in there, mind you, he's a military, is he still active duty? I think he is. He's an astronaut.
Yeah, no, he can't be active duty and a senator. He could be in the reserves, but not active duty.
Yeah, so I think he is in the reserves.
Well, he's retired. He had retired, so he's you're a retired reservist, whatever. You could be called back, but yeah, he's not active. Put it like that.
Yeah, so people like Mark Kelly. He's an astronaut. He was anyway. His wife, senator, got took one to the head. And he's now, challenging Trump. So a lot of people like Mark Kelly. I don't know. But Kamala, she's not at the top of the list.
Yeah. And then you guys got to think about it in a primary. And I've ran in a campaign. The more people you have in the election, it splits the vote. So the more, the merrier. And that betters your chance. That betters the strongest candidate's chances because it waters down everybody else's options. When you got more options out there, it waters down the vote.
Yeah. Hey, brother Don, you say what happened? You said, Mossad. Okay. We can't really have those conversations on here like that. The Outsider Sports says the black vote asked for Kamala. Yeah, well, most black voters voted for Kamala, so that's true. Miss Red Wine says what they say, they are selected, not elected. Yeah, well, she was definitely selected. I think the Democrats knew the Democrats weren't going to win, and they used Kamala, threw her under the bus. They knew she would get trounced, and they didn't care that her rest of her political career would be ruined. And, she took the bait when she should have just said, I'm good. Let somebody else do it.
But why did the Democrats know they were going to lose? Because of their policies, open borders, LGBTQ, all this craziness. It's, just use some common sense in your stuff and maybe you would win. I mean, look at Gavin Newsom now. He's sounding more, he's moving more to the middle than he is to the left now. Just going back to common sense,
And he said something about Kamala too that they mad about. I'm trying to think, what was it he said on that podcast with Ben Shapiro? He asked him something about her. Something she said about abolishing ICE. So Ben Shapiro says, yeah. So what do you think about Kamala saying she would abolish ICE? And he said, and I forget what he said, but he conceded that Kamala said it. She didn't necessarily say that. In a sense, she alluded to it, but she didn't say it. So they were calling Gavin Newsom out for throwing Kamala under the bus and saying that she said she would abolish ICE. But she did also talk about Gavin Newsom in the book where she said she called him and he didn't even answer. He didn't call her back. He texted her and said, I'll call you back, and never did. So, it doesn't seem like Gavin Newsom is a Kamala fan either. But to your point, Donovan, he's moving to the middle. And so some of that means throwing her under the bus. So, yeah.
And they were good friends because she was his district attorney.
Yep. Yeah. MC Fact, how you doing? Says open borders, alphabet, abortion, shaking my head. Yeah. But even with that, now if you think about it, I know we're about to get out of here, but even with Joe Biden, even if Joe Biden was running, he was still going to go on with the same old things people said they didn't want, the open borders and all that. And, the gig was up for Biden because the gig was up for Biden, especially when he debated Trump. People was like,
Yeah. Plus the promises he made to the FBAs. He didn't keep one promise that he made. Everything was, I can't do this or whatever, but he can do all this other stuff. And remember, you guys, they lost 15% of the black vote. combined between black men and women. 15%. That is significant. A Democrat cannot win an election if it's 90. They have to have 90% or above. I think it's 92% or above to win overwhelmingly black support. They lost 15% of the vote. I knew it was a wrap at that point. When the polls showed that, I said, it's done. We're done.
Yeah. Let's see. Sweet Butter says Kamala was a crash test dummy. Yeah, it's exactly what she was. And I don't know. I think she just probably had ambitions of being a president. She thought it was going to be a cakewalk. I don't know why she thought that, but I think everybody around her knew it wasn't going to be. Just get her to do it. You know, remember that old school cereal commercial? Let Mikey have it. He'll eat it. Mikey likes it, right? The Life cereal, and Mikey liked it. Kamala was Mikey. You know, she was Mikey in that sense. Get her to do it, and she did it. And it's sad if you think about it, because maybe in her mind she really thought she had a chance, but just kind of reading the book and then seeing what unfolded is like, yeah, they was all playing in her face. You know.
But just like Bronny James and any of these people who can't run on their own merit, you know, you look more foolish. Yeah, your dad had this dream to play basketball with his son in the NBA. You're not good enough for the NBA. Even the greatest player that ever played the game, Michael Jordan's son, did not make the NBA. But I have more respect for those guys because they didn't use their daddy to get them in. You see what I'm saying? You got to make it on your own. And she should have known, regardless if the offer is given to her or not, hey, thanks, but no thanks, because it doesn't look good when you're handed something when everybody else has to work for it.
I just think she thought here's my time to shine. I just really think that's what it was. Again, just kind of reading the book, from what she was saying, she, you know, thought she had it in the bag. And even on election night, she said her husband and everybody else knew that she wasn't going to win just by the results. And she said even within, she was, you know, still kind of hopeful. And she says that everybody was just kind of in shambles. How do we tell her that not only are you going to lose, you're going to lose bigly, you know? So even to that, the last minute, she thought she had it, right? Surely that I'm going to win.
Yeah. And everybody thought she had it because, again, the news media and the outlets, oh, Kamala's ahead by 20. She's taking this one. I remember that night I called you and I said, it's going to be a blowout. You know, the early poll showed, you know, she wins, whatever. And then Trump just swept all the way across after the first hour.
And now, mind you, her people knew that, even her husband, because, you know, he was on the team to some degree, but she was the last to know that she got her tailbone kicked in. She, to the last minute, thought, well, surely okay, we'll get the next one.
Yeah, well, when you bring endorsements from Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion and Beyonce, these are entertainers. They're not talking about anything the average person could relate to. And that's where the white woman that was doing her campaign, and I remember they did a round table. They went to some podcast and some of her campaign people were there, and they were like, well, you know, that is just, you know, we wanted to go the hip route, you know, the hip hop. Those people you don't run a campaign. You don't run a hip hop campaign for the president of the United States.
Yeah, MC Fact, I actually was going to ask that question, but I forgot because I'm getting old, but I agree. He never said he was going to do anything. He said, you have my back, I'm going to have yours, but that's very vague, right? But he never made Black Americans any promises at all.
Well, he did promise a federal commission on policing, never got it. He did promise that. He did promise the George Floyd Voting Act. We never got it. So on, so forth. So there were some promises that he made that he just did not come through with.
Yeah, I think once he got in office, but before he got in, not much. Lynn, how you doing? Says this is the same Kamala as vice president under the Biden administration repeatedly told us the border is secure over and over again. Yeah, and they finally made her go out there. And she says, don't come here. Stop coming over here. And they was like, lady, move out the way.
Mm-hmm. And remember the Lift Every Voice plan? Whatever happened to that? Mm-hmm. See, that's what I'm saying. Nothing. We got nothing. Everybody else benefited from the black vote, but black people specifically got nothing. Because remember, he went back to the black leadership and he said, remember when I told you this? Forget it. We can't do it. You know, he just reneged on everything that he had said.
Yeah, he said, kiss my butt. That's pretty much, you know, what he said to him. Hey, Lily, how you doing? So, yeah, you know, will Kamala be successful as president? I don't think she will. Will she try to run again? Yeah, I think she might, you know.
Big money in politics. Yes, she's going to run, get all this money, but you guys, she's not going to make it out of the primary. And if she does, that's because the Republicans want her to. Just like Hillary. They couldn't wait till Hillary ran for president. They couldn't wait. And she got obliterated.
And the other thing, too, is like, my thing is, y'all saw Trump 3 times, right? He ran for president 3 times, won finally, you know, on the 3rd time that he ran or whatever it is. But see, if I was on any of their campaigns, I'm like, this fool is unapologetic. He gonna say what he want to say. He gonna do what he want to do, right? And I think a lot of people just voted for Trump because they was like, he looks like a boss, especially when things seemed like it was falling apart, whether it's the grocery store, whatever it was. Now Trump, you know, he actually has made a lot of things worse. I mean, let's just keep it real, you know. But it's gotta remember, people, it's all about appearances. I hate to say it, you know, the people do judge books by their covers, and per Trump's cover, you know, he was gonna get the job done. Now, is he doing some things? If people say I voted for this, yeah, he's doing some things, but for the most part, Trump is like, listen, I talked a good game to get up in there so I can get what I need, but at the same time, everybody getting the reckoning. Yes, they are. I don't care what color you are, what gender you claim you are. Everybody's getting the reckoning, right? So that's what I like about the Trump administration, but it's been prophesized. We knew that this was going to happen. This is the fall of America, and we're witnessing it in real time. You know, he talking about he getting retribution on where's the Nobel Peace Prize commission, that wherever it is.
Yeah, I think it's in Sweden.
So, something like that. So he talking about a retribution on them because they didn't give it to him, right? And it's peace prize, but you got all these damn wars and bombs dropping all over the place, so it's kind of contradictory. So yeah, you know, we are witnessing the fall
kidnapping world leaders. You want the peace prize? You kidnapped the sovereign leader.
This fool stole a whole country and talking about stealing some more, right? So we're witnessing the fall of America.
I'm cryptic. It's Finland. African native says it's in Finland. I knew it's one of those two. Yeah. It's one of those.
So yeah, he talking about getting some get back on them because they snubbed him for the Nobel Peace Prize, right? So I say that to say, I know things look funky right now, but it's funky for everybody. But usually it's just funky for Black Americans, but it's funky for everybody. And that's why I like the Trump administration. Not that I like the Trump administration, but everybody got to have a come to Jesus moment, especially what they call the minorities, right? I'm not calling us that, but I'm saying the minorities, not the minorities, the other minorities. They're saying, oh, man, we've been firing on Black Americans all this time. They've been our nemesis, and we've been blaming them for everything. And now we're like, hey, Black Americans, y'all really want to try this unity thing? It's like, no, not yet, because there's things we got to get going. And if we're going to unify with you, you got to help us get what we want first. That's the way it's going down. Now, should there eventually be Black and brown unity and Black, brown, and yellow unity? Yeah, that's the way it's always been. But you got to remember that Black, the brown, the yellow, the red, they all got the same enemy we got. And his tricks have been working. Been telling us that we are each other's enemy because he already know he outnumbered all over the world. The world ain't white, it's brown, right? So even in America, they trying their best to keep us a schism between us fighting and everything so that we don't get together and ultimately do what is for us to do. So we're watching this all unfold, but as student minister Ishmael Muhammad said, ain't no need for us to try to do nothing. The only thing we need to do is, do for self. But as far as us getting out there and trying to change the trajectory of things, nah, it's already going down. Ain't nothing you can do about it. All you do is just sit back and watch. And that man that's in Washington, whoever he may be, they're trying to out legislate the will of God, but it cannot be done because it's already been written, right? If we know America's falling is like in the Babylon, you know what happened to Babylon in the Bible. And as student minister Ishmael Muhammad said, A lot of times people think about the Bible in the past and not thinking about it as present day. And he says the enemy has it like that on purpose for us to think those are things that happen. So we don't focus on the things that are happening in real time. If you know anything about the Bible, whether you go to church or not, you can see the stuff is unfolding. So is it really in the past? Alex, how you doing? So yeah, and Sharon, how you doing? So anyway, he says, give them to God while I eat my fine wine and he said, mama of bread. Okay, yeah. So ain't no need to panic. God is in control, always has been and always will be. There ain't no need to panic. Who's ever in the White House ain't gonna do nothing for us, especially, right? And we've been told that we just got to get to work. That's what we got to do. But yeah, just to kind of close it off, Kamala. She was a keynote speaker there, and they asked her to say a couple of words about Martin Luther King, and I guess that she did, and she tied it in, rob Black Americans of the story, rather, because that's what Martin Luther King was fighting for. And she tied it into what's going on now with ICE and things like that. Didn't even mention Keith Porter, who had his life taken from him erroneously through an off-duty ICE agent. Never even spoke about him, spoke about the white woman. So Kamala, she's part of the establishment and she's going to, show up to these events, but she's always like most of the people in the Democrat Party, whether they Black for real or whatever they are, they're going to use our stories to go help everybody else. And so if the Democrats aren't careful, we'll continue to spread the word and we're not going to lie on them. We're just going to say, hey, look what they're doing. They're still practicing benign neglect of Black Americans. They're using our struggles, our stories, whether they like in the KKK to ICE and all this other stuff. They're still going to use our struggle to try to help everybody else. And guess who's going to help them do it? It's going to be us. We're going to show up to the polls and we're going to help them do it.
Yes. So, all you got to do is continue to watch Chicago, you guys. Danny C., Jessica Jackson, all those people there that are fighting. Again, a Black mayor is stealing Black homes and forcibly gentrifying Black people out by raising their property taxes. Follow Chicago, follow the money, you guys.
Yeah, I mean, and do some research, right? Stop listening to the Democrat shills. I'm not telling you to vote for Republican. I'm nonpartisan. I don't belong to either party. I think you should vote for whoever is going to serve the better interest of yourself and for your community. But yeah, do some research. If they telling you one thing, whatever it is, one thing I heard too is that they say Black women are now creating jobs and it becoming employment resources to one another. That wasn't going to happen if the so-called 800,000 Black women didn't lose their jobs. See, now Black women, if that indeed is true, are starting to dig into the resources. The Black woman is one of the most resourceful people on the planet. She can make $1 out of 15 cents and she can make a whole meal out of a piece of bubble gum and a bean sprout. Okay, so if she can't make something out of nothing, then I don't know who can, right? So the Black woman is now stepping into her rightful place as a part of a nation builder, and so we're seeing some wonderful things happen. But that was not going to happen under Kamala. Kamala is going to continue to rock the Black woman back to sleep, making her think that she's the backbone of the Democrat Party, but she's the ass bone of her own community. So the Black woman is waking up, and we love to see it. So anyway, Luke Skywalker, how you doing? Says, if it's for us, it's for everybody. Come on now. And it shouldn't be that way. Black America, how you doing? He says, well, we all know that's a load of bull crap. Black women don't have no money. Well, that's what we need you for, Black man. You got all the money. Can we get $1? How about $1.50?
Can you get $1? We're making it rain in the clubs. At least we used to. Money's a little tight right now.
Yeah, it's more like y'all making it hail in the club, okay? Them coins hurt. So anyway, y'all can join me tomorrow on the African Diaspora News Channel at 11 a.m. Central Time. Again, 11 a.m. Central Time. I'll be here again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Time. Donovan is always more than welcome to join me. He's a working man. JB, how you doing? Says, exactly, keep our money in our communities too. Stop spending our money with the lineage of evil. Come on now. So anyway, love and appreciate every last one of y'all. We're going to get out of here. Bernice, did I say hi to you? Not hello. He says, scripture says, come out of her, my people, and be ye separate. Absolutely. Peace.